Hello, 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 everybody. If you were just in the public private Facebook group, then you would have just seen me. I know I've actually gotten a few questions lately of being like, what's the difference between the Facebook group and the forums? The forums, just so everybody knows, the forums are strictly for active like members. So everybody who's on the team, everybody will be in the forums there. And so the trainings there are going to be, you're going to still get the same trainings in the Facebook group. They may not be at the same time, but you're still going to get the same training. But in the forums, you get way more advanced training, way more specific training, and more like one-on-one training. For example, if you're like, shoot me a message being like, hey, Casey, like I'm really struggling with RIR, then we'll do a live on RIR, for example, or being like, like how do I specifically overcome these cravings? Then we'll definitely go deeper into cravings versus like on the Facebook group, we might touch on them and stuff, but it's such a um, loaded topic that we only do it for our members just with the time that we have. But that being said, though, oh my goodness, did I freeze? No. That being said, though, if you are in the Facebook group and you watch those lives, those are still going to be really beneficial for you. But I just want you to know that everything that gets done in there, you get in the forum. So if you're like confused on which one to do, or if you only want to do one, then stick to the forum and everything like that. Because all the guides that I send in the Facebook group, I always upload them to the resources. You guys have them on hand. You guys will always have it first. You guys will always have everything versus the Facebook group won't have everything. So that's a big difference. That being said, let's get started. As always, let's start off with a win. Oh my God, I realized I just did the Facebook Live in the public group and I talked about the importance of wins and I didn't even share a win. Anyways, I'm going to do it here and I want to see everybody's wins here as well. So again, drop it down in the chat. My win today is you know what, I always say every Friday it's my win is my workout, and that's because it's a leg day and those can just derail me like with my energy. And today I'm actually doing really good even after a pretty intense leg day, and I've hit some PRs with my H squat. If anybody watches my stories, like that huge machine, I actually like physically have to climb up, like there's steps to climb up to it. So much fun. And it annihilates your glutes. It's hands down one of my favorite machines because it really supports your back. It's just not a common machine. Like you just don't see that everywhere. And they actually had that machine in our gym for quite a while, but it was out of service and they finally got it in service. And I think I'm the only one that uses that machine. It's also in the worst position, but in the gym, but that's okay. I love it. I'm super grateful for it. But my win actually is I got Darcy to film me today. Also, it's always good to film yourself, you guys. Not just to like send them to me and check form, but it's good to watch because the more you watch yourself, the more you can also like obviously shoot us all the form videos. But I encourage you to look at it to also be like, I wonder, like maybe this is wrong, or maybe I'm doing this right, and then send it to Darcy or myself to give you that feedback to be like, yeah, you're bang on the money. Like maybe your neck was extended and it should have been, or maybe you had your pelvis tilted, because that is starting to train your brain to be like to look out for things for when you're lifting, right? Now this is totally side note, but anyways, my win was that I got Darcy to film me, actually to send to my coach, um, and my glutes from now until I found video that I did. What was it, in February? Oh my God, it's been 10 months since that video. Anyways, my glutes have grown a retarded amount in the best ways possible. But so I'm just so grateful that's a win for me because I've been training my glutes like my life depends on it, which is good. So anyways, moving aside, I'm going to stop rambling here. I'm going to jump into it. I'm actually going over today on the exercises and their targeted muscle groups. Now, if you see me kind of looking over here, I am going through a resource. This resource is in everybody's, it's under all things training. And that the guide is right there. So I'm actually going to be reading through it. So if you want to pull it up on your phone, great. But if you're like, I'm going to read through it afterwards, too complicated, totally fine. But I'm going to read through it, and I'm also going to add more because obviously this is a basic guide. I did like 6 examples per kind of like muscle group. There are hundreds of thousands upon even more thousands of exercises. So 6 is not all of them. Um, but I'm trying to make it enough so you guys can understand without it getting too crazy and complicated to overwhelm you. So let's start, shall we? Let's start with the back because that's what it starts with. Back, you have a few, you have not just a few, you have a tremendous amount of muscles in your back and your forearms are actually the most amount of different muscles within that kind of area. Um, Fun fact. So the back is there's a shit ton, but what we want the most is to create kind of like that wing, right? So when we create, oh my goodness, where am I? So you see my shoulders, we want our back to be like kind of wide with it because when what it does is your back goes like this, right? That's called your lat. And so when your lat caves in, it really brings it in sharp to your waist. And that's actually what gives you that illusion of a smaller waist. So if our back isn't like if my shoulders are here and my back, like my lats aren't grown and they just go straight down, I look like I don't have a small waist because I'm just up and down. But to create that waist, to create that illusion of that waist, we want our lats to grow and to, I'm really trying here. We want our lats to grow so it's like this and it tapers down to the waist rather than up and down, right? So we want it to grow and it's going to actually give us that illusion of that smaller waist. Now, don't get caught up in like rhomboids, erectors, serratus posterior, like superior and inferior, like all those types of different muscles, and there's so many more. I I just want you to focus in on 3 different areas, which is like your lats, and then kind of like your upper back and your lower back type of area, mid lower back. Those are kind of the areas that you should focus in on. Honestly, if you just focus in on how you can engage your back and just go from different angles, like top, middle, and bottom, you're going to hit every muscle group in your back. So that being said, lat pull down is an easy one. It's going to be a high row like this. Many different ways. You can neutral, wide grip. All of them serve a different purpose. But the fact that you're going from here, pulling down, perfect. Always have that in there. Now, another one is you're going to always want to be kind of horizontal, right? So you're always going to want to have some sort of horizontal pull, whether you're seated in seated cable row, bent over, dumbbell row, machine row, whatever you have. There's T-bar row. There's so many different. That's going to be the second kind of exercise that you want to also have in on your back day. Now, you can have also low rows. So low rows are going to be something like if I'm standing here, can you see that arm? So if I'm standing here, instead of it being totally horizontal, I'm going to be angled down. So just like how you have the high row, you're also going to have a horizontal row and then also a low row. So you can do low row machine, you can do low cable row, you can do bent over low row with dumbbell. So many options. So those are the 3 kind of areas that I would recommend focusing in on for exercises. Now, back is just a pulling motion. So you can literally do that with a cable, machine, dumbbell. You can also do that get really creative, and you can do it with like a Smith machine, barbell. All of them work, honestly. And you can also do that with bands as well, right? So I went over lat pull down, which should be high, seated cable, which would be horizontal, bent over dumbbell row, again, another horizontal, back extension. Now I threw that in there because that's your erectors, but only do that if you love it. Like I've just been asked questions about it. So I wrote beside it strengthens the lower back and core stabilizers. Everything is going to engage your core stabilizers and your erectors. So don't stress on that one. But I threw it in there just in case if someone was like, I really want this, or like, what should this do? Single arm dumbbell row is another great example. Again, you can do that like a horizontal or a low row, wide grip pull up. That's another great one there. Even though you're not seated and pulling down to you, it's up here and you're pulling yourself up to it. So it's the same motion, right? Shoulders. Shoulders. Now you have three different shoulder groups. You have your front, your middle, and your rear delt. That's all that makes up the shoulder group. It is smoking hot in here. Just one sec. This also might be easier if I don't have a jacket on or a sweater. Anyways, so what you want to do is you want to target all of these three areas, your front, your middle, and your rear delt, right? All it does is imagine shortening this motion. So all you're going to have to do is one, make sure that from Okay. So what you're going to think about doing is it originates here and it inserts here. So you want it to just shorten this way. So that way you can do a front raise. That would do it. You can do a chest press that goes up like that. You can do an incline, like if you're on a bench, you lean back, you do an incline press here because all it's doing is it's shortening this muscle, right? So anything along those lines, like I mentioned, incline dumbbell press, incline machine press, inclined Smith machine or barbell press, front raises, plate raises, cable front raises, all those are going to be good for that. So there. Now, your middle delt is going to be anything that brings your arm up like this. So that can be lateral raises. If you think about this, again, shoulder raises, because if you think this arm is still going up this way, shoulder raises, shoulder press. It's been a long day, you guys. I'm not going to lie. It's Friday. So anyways, lateral raise, shoulder press, all of them are going to be good. But the thing is it attaches from here to here. So it's right in the middle of your delt. So that's why you want that kind of motion, right? And then for your rear delt, very easy. It goes from here to here. So all you're going to want to do is shorten this. So I'm sure you guys are already going to figure it out. Face pulls, rear delt rows, rear delt flies, or Y raises like that. Anything that's going to shorten that position. You can see here that on this guide I did seated dumbbell shoulder press. Yep, lateral raises, that's going to be your middle delts. Front raises, high incline press, those are going to be front delts. Face pulls, rear delt flies, your rear delts. So you want to attack all three, right? Now your dumbbell upright row, that's going to engage more so, it depends on kind of how you're positioned, but it's going to always target your middle. But if you're really bent over, it's going to target your middle and rear delt. If you're more upright, it's going to target your middle and possibly even your front. So it's definitely going to attack your middle, though, for sure. But you want to have at least like the three kind of in your workout plan, so to speak. Now, arms are so easy. I love that they're very basic. So arms, very simple. Bicep, right? All you're going to do is shorten here to here. Okay. Again, it's been a long day. So you do have different bicep heads, actually. There are a few muscles in here, but all you want to focus in on is one, having it totally by your side, and then just bringing it up like so. Because you can see here, my muscle kind of comes out deep in an off season, so you can't see it as good as if I'm just in my prep, but it brings it out like so. And so all you want to do is shorten it like that. Very simple. Many different exercises you can do that. Bicep curl, hammer curl. You can do all the dumbbells to cables. You can do like pre-weighted barbell curls, easy curls. So many options. Now for triceps, same thing but opposite. So the tricep, it goes from here all the way down here. Again, you have a few different muscles in there, but the movement pattern is literally just that. You can see when I engage, that's my tricep engaging. So you can do bent over tricep extension. You can do skull crushers, tricep extension, overhead, dumbbell, overhead cable, overhead weighted barbell, anything that's just getting your arm to do that and to straighten it, tricep. So you can see here, yeah, I did bicep curl, hammer curl, tricep push downs, overhead tricep extensions, concentration curls, close grip, bench press. That's actually another one. It's a bit more advanced for triceps, but it is still one, because if you're close bench like this and you're pushing up, do you see how you're extending your arm and you're actually straightening it? It's another one for triceps. All right, now we're getting to the lower body. I'm trying to go through this fast so it's not like an hour long. And I want to say that I'm actually doing relatively good. Glutes. Okay, glutes have you break it down into I want you to break it down into only 2 parts, okay? There's obviously different layers to your glute, but there's really only 2 kind of mechanisms that you always want to be working, which is your glute max, which is the biggest part of your butt, and then your glute med and min are just right here. But I want you to think of it as 2 parts, one here and then one your whole butt. All right, so your glute max is the biggest one. Fun fact, it is the strongest muscle of your body. So give credit to your ass. Now, the smaller muscles there, the glute med, glute min, that's going to be the ones that if you ever hear girls being like, how to build that shelf, that's what they're talking about. All right. Now, if you want like width and everything and big booty, whatever, glute max is going to be the person you're going to be targeting. I highly recommend targeting both, but primarily focus on glute max over the movements here, only because you will still be using that movement with your glute max anyways. So just make sure that you have more of glute max focus. Now, if you're like, oh my God, this is stressful, your glute max will be doing anything with bigger compound movements. So if you're like, I'm not too sure, like if this glute max or like glute med, just think, is it an isolated movement? Because if it is, it most likely is going to be glute med. If it's a compound movement, hands down is a glute max movement. So for example, hip thrusts, glute bridges, all glute max. Your glute meds will still work, and other muscles like hamstrings will obviously work here too. But lunges, Bulgarian split squats, step ups, step downs, glute push downs, RDLs. I put in also kickbacks. Yeah, and I said everything else. There's cable pull throughs, which is just like same, but different to RDLs. RDLs are a bit more superior than cable pull throughs, but honestly, choose whatever exercise you feel the most in the area you're trying to work. For example, for me, I struggle with cable pull throughs. I don't do cable pull throughs. However, Bulgarian split squats are dynamite for my glutes. But recently, I've been struggling with actually hip thrusts and Bulgarian split squats. So I've been doing actually single leg RDLs, which have been amazing, and also glute push downs and the H squat actually, which just annihilates my glutes. So you can be like, I used to be all about hip thrust and I still am, but sometimes you go through phases where like it's harder to engage, but something else that still works the glute so much easier to engage. Just opt for that. Opt for whatever is easier that is still targeting that muscle and that you enjoy. Now, for the glute kind of med min before I go into hamstrings, all that's going to be doing is bringing your leg out to the side. So it's going to be any sort of like abduction movement. So if I'm standing here and I just do this, trying to, this is very challenging to do on such a small screen. Anyways, if I just do this, that is an abduction. So you can do seated abduction. You can do cable abduction. There is even like standing machine abduction. You can do banded abduction, anything along those lines. But having just kind of like the framework of like that and then glute max, you're still going to create that huge round glute that you're wanting. So don't stress about if you see someone being like, curtsy lunges also really work my glute med. Yeah, it does. It also works your glute max. Like if you're working your glute max, you're going to be working your glute med as well. So I'd focus on the glute max and you can throw in one or two things throughout the week, like not a lot of glute med if you really want to. Hamstrings. Also keep in mind that even though I said like hip thrusts or like Bulgarian split squats, lunges, those are still going to be working other areas. You can have it more glute focused though by how you position or just how your body is. Um, and so if it doesn't work for you for those exercises, just choose one that does, like I kind of was saying. Because sometimes, like when I used to do Bulgarian split squat, it was very quad heavy for me until I really um, kind of modified and adapted my version of it. And now it's extremely glute dominant. And so just take that into consideration that other muscles will be working. So if you feel it, it's fine. It just shouldn't be like after you've done that exercise, it shouldn't be like if you're working your glutes with a cable kickback and you feel it in your hamstring only and your glute was like totally fine, then maybe swap or adjust something. Like your hamstrings will still work. It shouldn't be like the primary mover though. 20 minutes. Okay, we got this. Hamstrings. All right. So hamstrings is very simple. It's very similar if you think of it to our arms, like biceps, but maybe it's more like no, it's going to be more so like our biceps. Because if you think of it like our biceps, we curl this way, hamstrings, same thing. We're just curling our foot heel to butt. So we're curling in. If you watched my live last Friday, you would understand like the push pull kind of version thing that I explained. Hamstring is a pulling version. So you're just curling it in, you're just shortening that muscle. The muscle goes from like the back of your knee. Well, it goes from just right under your butt to right, like to the back of your knee kind of area. And so all you want to do is shorten that muscle. So anything like a seated hamstring curl, Swiss ball hamstring curl, cable hamstring pull, Nordic ham curl. Those are very isolated to hamstrings. Now, you will still work your hamstrings in Romanian deadlifts. Like that is a very hamstring dominant exercise. You can make it more glute dominant exercise if you want, but people do RDL specifically for hamstrings as well. So I did put Romanian deadlifts in there just so some people, because I'm sure that they're going to be like, I do RDLs. And like, actually, I was having this conversation with one of the members today, being like, "Can you look over my RDLs because I feel it a lot in hamstrings?" And that's not wrong. It's only wrong if we're trying to target the glutes more so than the hamstrings, right? Quads. Quads are the same thing as triceps, right? It's so you're pushing it away like this with triceps. Same thing with your quads. So if your leg is like so, you're going to be pushing your, my goodness, you're going to be pushing your shin bone away from you, right? So you're not going to be pulling in, you're going to be pushing away. So that's going to be working your quads. Now, there are a lot of compound movements that also work your quads. Any sort of squat, lunge kind of pattern where you have to flex your knee, flexion of your knee, is going to make you engage your quads. But you can also do more isolated movements like leg extensions. Now you can do that on cables. You can do it with dumbbells. Sissy squats are a great one for quads. Now there's other things that are more compound movements. I wrote down leg press, goblet squats. Yeah, especially if you do a goblet squat and you heels elevated, that's going to be targeting your quads quite a bit. So there are compound movements where you can target like all your muscles or more primary muscles. There's also isolated movements, like I mentioned there, that can go after your quads. And now I went over like overall upper body and overall lower body. This is just, sorry, that was my dog. I don't know what she's doing with her toy, but anyways, these were just kind of exercises I wanted to put in there just that are extra. Now, push-ups, I mentioned here, targets chest, shoulders, triceps. It just targets more areas. These are not the only ones. Like, inverted row works back, shoulders, biceps, dumbbell chest press, chest, shoulders, triceps, Arnold press, dumbbell pullover, chest fly. They all work so many different things, but so many other exercises that I wrote above as well. For example, shoulder press. I didn't write it in the overall upper body, but shoulder press does mainly your shoulders, but it also does tricep, right? So any compound movement is going to work more muscles than just the primary mover. Now, isolated movements are going to only target the isolated muscle, like for example, a bicep curl. That is focusing only on your biceps. Lower body squat, split squats, leg press, deadlift, box squats, walking lunges, anything like that, compound movements. It's going to work a lot of muscles other than just, the primary muscle that you're going after. Now that's the end of the guide. So that is in everybody's resources under all things training. I hope everybody was following along. I try to go through that as fast as I can without making this super long, but those are kind of like the movement patterns that you want for the muscles, right? So there's a million different exercises. There's a million different ways to do those exercises. There's a million different modifications for those exercises. But if you know the movement of the muscle, you're going to be hitting that muscle like that exercise just fine, right? Robin, when we got to Georgia today and the weather's oh, that's awesome. I love it when the weather's so nice on like a Friday going into the weekend. I was actually funny enough talking to someone on the phone today and she was in Missouri and she was like, "Oh, can't complain. It's beautiful sunny day." And I was like, "That's crazy because in BC right now, Canada, I'm like, it's also it doesn't seem sunny anymore, but it's also very sunny and beautiful and warm today." So I like that it's hitting so many areas. So that's awesome, Rosin, Robin. Also, thank you, Robin, for tuning in, showing up. Do you have any questions, Robin? Just drop them in the chat below if you do, and then I'll answer them before um, I end this live. It's been a long day. All right. Well, I don't see any questions coming in. That's totally fine. Again, sometimes I don't see, like, I know I did a live earlier and I didn't see any of the comments or questions. So if I ever don't see them, it's not because I'm skipping them. Honestly, I just can't see them on this computer. I know Darcy's had issues with that before as well. Either shoot us a message. We normally will see them anyways, but shoot us a message if we don't, because we definitely want to explain whatever question you have and make sure that you fully understand it with full confidence, right? So that's it. That's all for kind of like what exercises target what muscles, but more importantly, how the muscles move. And then that will give you so much more clarity on what to do, right, for that muscle. And then once you pair that with the last video, you're good to rock. All right. Well, I hope everybody has a fantastic Friday, fantastic weekend, and I will see you all later. Bye, guys.